When Boeing unveiled the 777X, it wasn't just another new jet on the block. It was a statement, a flex, a promise that Boeing could still dominate the skies with bold engineering and headline-grabbing innovation. And at first glance, it looked unbeatable. The 777X was designed to be the world's biggest twin-engine airliner, stretching a jaw-dropping 77.6 meters from nose to tail. That's longer than the Wright brothers' entire first flight. It could seat over 400 passengers in a standard layout, making it the ultimate replacement for older 747s and earlier 777s. For airlines squeezed between efficiency demands and passenger volume, the pitch was irresistible. But the real party trick? Those wings. Unlike any commercial jet before it, the 777X came with folding wingtips. On the runway, the tips tuck neatly up so the plane can fit into existing taxiways and gates. In the air, they extend to give the aircraft a massive 72-meter wingspan, turning this giant into an efficiency machine. Boeing had essentially created a transformer, but one certified for international runways. It was smart, dramatic, and marketable in a way aviation doesn't usually get to be. Then there were the engines, the GE9X. These beasts weren't just big. They were the largest turbofan engines ever mounted on a commercial plane. Imagine a car the size of a house fan, and you've got the basic scale. Each GE9X could generate around 105,000 pounds of thrust, enough to haul this metal colossus off the ground while still sipping less fuel per seat than its rivals. Boeing promised a 10% improvement in efficiency compared to previous 777s, which sounded like free money to airlines already haunted by fuel bills. At launch, the 777X was showered with orders. Lufthansa signed on. Emirates, always hungry for the biggest toys in the sky, ordered over 100. Qatar Airways followed suit. The industry buzzed. Boeing had built the jet to kill off Airbus's A380 once and for all, and it seemed to be working. But behind the fanfare, cracks were forming. The GE9X ran into durability problems. Test aircraft suffered structural issues. Certification turned into a long, grinding process with regulators demanding fixes. Deadlines slipped again and again. First delivery dates slid from 2020 to 2025, then to 2026, and whispers say even 2027 isn't impossible. Airlines that signed up early grew restless, watching billions of dollars in aircraft get stuck in limbo. What began as Boeing's big swing looked more like a heavyweight fighter stuck in the gym, shadowboxing instead of stepping into the ring. The engineering was extraordinary, but extraordinary doesn't pay the bills if passengers can't board the plane. And Airbus? They were paying close attention. Because every year Boeing lost to delays was another year Airbus could sharpen its knives and maybe, just maybe, outmaneuver the giant without building an entirely new jet. And that's exactly where the game starts to get interesting. While Boeing was busy flexing folding wings and wrestling with delays, Airbus didn't scramble for a flashy comeback. No massive new program, no billion-dollar gamble on some exotic design. Instead, they did what Airbus does best: play it quiet, play it smart, and play it efficient. Their answer to the 777X isn't a brand new plane. It's a stretched version of a jet they already have in the air, earning trust from airlines worldwide. The A350. The A350 has been Airbus's crown jewel in long-haul travel. Built with carbon fiber composites, it's lighter, stronger, and more efficient than the aluminum dinosaurs it replaced. The 900 variant has been flying since 2015, and the larger 1000 since 2018. These jets have proven themselves as reliable workhorses, with airlines praising their comfort, range, and fuel efficiency. So when Boeing threw down the gauntlet with the 777X, Airbus didn't need to reinvent the wheel. They just needed to stretch it. The concept is simple. Take the A350-1000, already nearly as long as the 777X, and add a few more fuselage frames. That's aviation speak for make the tube longer. A stretched A350 could carry roughly the same number of passengers as Boeing's new flagship, with similar range and efficiency. And because Airbus would be using an existing design, they could deliver it faster and at lower development cost. Think of it like fashion. Boeing showed up in a custom, one-off designer suit. Airbus calmly adjusted the hem of theirs, made a few stitches, and ended up with a look just as sharp, without blowing the budget. And Airbus knows airlines care about more than just glamour. With a stretched A350, crews would already be trained, maintenance teams already familiar, supply chains already humming. Airlines could slot these jets into their fleets without the headaches that come with introducing a brand new type. Less risk, less waiting, more flying. But make no mistake, Airbus wasn't just being conservative. They were being ruthless. By choosing to stretch the A350, they avoided the billion-dollar development traps that Boeing had walked right into with the 777X. Airbus could undercut costs, reduce delays, and still offer airlines a jet that ticked the same boxes. Of course, stretching an airplane isn't just a game of Lego. It brings engineering challenges, structural loads, balance, aerodynamics, all of which Airbus would have to solve. But compared to launching a whole new program, this was a low-risk bet. And in aviation, low risk can be the ultimate competitive edge. So while Boeing was making headlines, Airbus was laying groundwork. Quietly, patiently, waiting for the moment to roll out a stretched A350 that could match the 777X without the drama. And airlines? They noticed. Because in this game, the customer's confidence can make or break even the boldest jet. Which brings us to the next question. How did the market react when Boeing stumbled and Airbus sharpened its knives? That's where the story really heats up. In aviation, airplanes don't win by looking good on PowerPoint slides. They win in boardrooms, in signed contracts, and in the patience or impatience of airlines. And the 777X's order book tells a fascinating story. When Boeing first rolled out the 777X, airlines rushed to claim their slice of the future. Emirates led the charge, placing the kind of mega order only Dubai could dream up. Over 100 units of the 777-9, making it the backbone of their long-haul strategy. Lufthansa joined as the launch customer. Qatar Airways and Singapore Airlines followed. On paper, Boeing had locked in a solid victory. Airlines were betting that the 777X would be the natural heir to the legendary 747 and the aging first-generation 777s. But as the delays piled up, that confidence began to fray. The 777X was supposed to enter service around 2020. Instead, its debut has been punted years into the future. Now we're talking 2025, 2026, maybe even 2027 if the certification hurdles keep stacking up. For airlines, that's not just a delay. That's entire fleet plans thrown into chaos. Emirates, once the loudest cheerleader, has voiced frustration. Tim Clark, their outspoken president, publicly pressed Boeing for answers, warning that patience isn't infinite when billions of dollars are tied up in orders. Other carriers, too, have quietly adjusted their strategies, plugging the gap with other aircraft. Because at the end of the day, passengers aren't going to wait around for a delayed jet. They still need to fly. And here's where Airbus has been quietly eating Boeing's lunch. The A350 is already in service. Airlines like Qatar, Cathay Pacific, and Delta are flying it daily. The aircraft has built a reputation for comfort, efficiency, and reliability. So when the idea of a stretched A350 surfaced, airlines didn't scoff. They leaned in. Because unlike Boeing's delayed promises, Airbus was offering a path that felt tangible, predictable, and far less risky. Meanwhile, Airbus has been racking up wins in other battles too. The A321XLR, a narrow body with transatlantic reach, has been pulling in hundreds of orders from carriers across Europe, North America, and Asia. Every time an airline inks a deal with Airbus for narrow bodies, it deepens the relationship, making it easier for Airbus to pitch them on wide bodies like the A350. It's a domino effect, and Boeing's delays only push more tiles in Airbus's direction. Think of it this way. The 777X was meant to be Boeing's knockout punch. Instead, it's been shadowboxing while Airbus quietly racks up points on the scorecard. Airlines don't live on promises. They live on schedules, efficiency, and trust. And right now, Airbus has all three. But stretching a jet isn't just a matter of signing contracts and smiling at press conferences. Making it work in practice means pushing engineering limits, and those limits can be unforgiving. Which takes us straight into the real challenge. What happens when Airbus tries to stretch the A350 to match the 777X's muscle? On paper, stretching the A350 to take on the 777X sounds almost too easy. Just add a few extra fuselage frames, bolt on some more seats, and call it a day. But in aviation, nothing is ever that simple. Push an aircraft too far, and physics starts pushing back. Every stretch comes with consequences. The longer the fuselage, the greater the stress loads during takeoff, landing, and turbulence. The plane's center of gravity shifts, its wings must carry more weight, and its landing gear has to absorb extra punishment. It's like lengthening a bridge. The supports need reinforcement, or the whole structure risks sagging. Airbus already has some experience here. The A340 family, for instance, had versions that were stretched well beyond their sweet spot, and performance suffered as a result. With the A350, Airbus has a much stronger base, a modern carbon fiber fuselage, advanced aerodynamics, and powerful Rolls-Royce Trent XWB engines. That foundation makes stretching less of a gamble, but it's still a balancing act. The biggest challenge is maintaining range. Airlines don't just want more seats. They want those seats to fly the same long-haul missions. Add too much weight without improving lift or fuel efficiency, and suddenly the jet can't cross oceans as comfortably as before. To solve that, Airbus would likely need small but crucial upgrades, tweaks to the wing structure, perhaps more powerful engine variants, and reinforced landing gear. And then there's certification. Any stretch of an existing aircraft isn't just a paperwork exercise. Regulators treat it almost like a new type. That means wind tunnel tests, structural analysis, and endless hours of proving the jet can handle stresses it was never originally designed for. For Airbus, this process will cost time and money, even if it's far less than the mountain Boeing has sunk into the 777X. The irony is that Airbus can take its time. Boeing's delays have handed them breathing room. Every year, the 777X slips further into the future. Airbus gains another year to quietly refine the stretched A350 concept. Airlines don't mind waiting if the alternative is a reliable, predictable jet with lower development risk. Of course, engineering challenges don't disappear just because your competitor is stumbling. Airbus still needs to prove that a stretched A350 can truly go head-to-head with Boeing's flagship in terms of range, efficiency, and passenger comfort. If they miscalculate, the aircraft could end up in that awkward middle ground, too heavy to be efficient, too stretched to be profitable. But if they pull it off, Airbus will have delivered a masterclass in strategic design, evolving an existing aircraft into a new powerhouse while avoiding the billion-dollar pitfalls Boeing walked into. Because in this business, survival isn't just about building the biggest or boldest plane. It's about building the right plane at the right time. And that's where the final act of this rivalry comes into focus. In aviation, the race isn't just about who builds the most impressive machine. It's about who earns the trust of airlines, and who keeps that trust when the pressure mounts. For Boeing, the 777X was meant to be that trust builder, the heir to the 747 and the original 777, both legends in their own right. Instead, it's become a symbol of delay and frustration. The technology is extraordinary, the design bold, but airlines don't buy potential. They buy airplanes that can fly today. And right now, the 777X is still waiting in the wings. Airbus, on the other hand, has played the long game. By focusing on incremental evolution rather than flashy revolution, they've avoided the pitfalls of overpromising and underdelivering. The stretched A350 might not make headlines with folding wings or record-breaking engines, but it offers something airlines prize even more: stability. A platform they already trust, stretched just enough to compete with Boeing's delayed giant. But there's more at stake here than just wide-body bragging rights. Both companies are fighting for dominance in the long-haul market, the prestige end of aviation where reputations are forged and profits are significant. If Airbus manages to field a stretched A350 before Boeing clears the 777X for passengers, the balance of power could tilt in Airbus's favor for the next decade. Meanwhile, the industry itself is changing. Airlines aren't just looking for big jets anymore. They're looking for efficiency, flexibility, and sustainability. Twin-engine aircraft like the A350 and the 777X already killed the four-engine giants. But the next battle may be fought on carbon emissions, new fuels, and hybrid technologies. Airbus has been hinting at hydrogen concepts for the 2030s. Boeing is still tied up trying to get its current flagship off the ground. For passengers, these corporate battles can feel distant. A seat on a stretched A350 won't feel radically different from one on a 777X. But for airlines, the difference between a reliable delivery and a delayed program can mean billions. It can shape route networks, influence fares, and decide which manufacturer dominates the skies over the world's busiest long-haul routes. The truth is, there may not be a single knockout punch. The 777X could still enter service and prove itself the efficient giant Boeing promised. The stretched A350 could hit unexpected engineering snags. But in the chess game of aviation, Airbus has positioned itself cleverly. It's not always the flashiest move that wins. Sometimes it's the patient, deliberate one. And as we wrap up this journey, the real question remains: who will passengers and airlines crown as the true giant of the skies? So here we are, two rivals, two strategies, one high-stakes fight for the future of long-haul aviation. Boeing's 777X dazzled the world with its folding wingtips, record-breaking engines, and ambitious promises. But delays have dimmed that shine. The jet still has the potential to be a marvel, but every missed deadline chips away at confidence. Airbus, by contrast, hasn't promised the moon. They've promised something more practical: a stretched A350, building on a platform that airlines already know and trust. It may not grab the headlines the way a folding wing does, but sometimes quiet reliability outmaneuvers loud ambition. This isn't just about airplanes. It's about survival, reputation, and strategy. Boeing needs the 777X to succeed not just for sales, but for credibility. Airbus sees an opening to quietly erode Boeing's dominance with a clever, low-risk evolution. Both paths could shape the skies of the 2030s and beyond. And what about us, the passengers? In the end, most people boarding a future 777X or a stretched A350 won't care about fuselage frames or wingtip geometry. They'll care about comfort, price, and whether the plane gets them across the ocean on time. But behind the curtain, these corporate rivalries decide which aircraft are available, how airlines set their routes, and even how ticket prices evolve. So as the battle continues, one truth remains: the sky doesn't forgive mistakes, and neither do airlines. Boeing's bold gamble and Airbus's cautious strategy are two sides of the same coin, and the winner will be whichever side lands more smoothly with customers. If you've enjoyed this flight through aviation history and rivalry, don't just taxi to the gate, take off with us. Hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives into the battles that shape our skies, and drop a comment. Are you backing Boeing's 777X, Airbus's stretched A350, or just whichever plane gets you the cheapest upgrade to business class? Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep your seatbelts fastened, your curiosity cruising, and your eyes on the horizon. Because in aviation, the story never really lands.